In March 2026, NASA released a plan. Not a vision statement. Not a press release filled with inspiring language and no dates. A plan. With phases, budgets, launch counts, and deadlines measured in years, not decades. On the surface, it is a blueprint for building a permanent human outpost on the Moon. But the more important thing it reveals is this. NASA has fundamentally changed, and the reason for that change has nothing to do with science. It has to do with losing. The race nobody is calling a race. China is going to the Moon, not eventually, not hypothetically. They have a lander, they have a crew vehicle, they have a timeline, and in January 2019, their Chang'e 4 mission became the first spacecraft in history to land softly on the far side of the Moon. In 2024, their Chang'e 6 mission collected samples from that far side and returned them to Earth. The first time material from the Moon's hidden hemisphere had ever been brought back for analysis. They are not watching, they are moving. NASA Administrator Jared Isaacman stood on a stage in Washington in March 2026 with a single word projected behind him: ignition. And then he said something that NASA administrators almost never say out loud. For decades, NASA has been spread too thin, trying to make everyone happy, accomplishing very little. Billions of dollars wasted, years of progress lost. The result is that America showed up to a race it pretended wasn't happening and fell behind. That ends now. This time, the goal is not flags and footprints. This time, the goal is to stay. The plan: $20 billion, 7 years, 3 phases. That is what it costs to build a permanent human outpost on the Moon. And for the first time in the history of the Artemis program, there is an actual step-by-step architecture for how to do it. It starts with fixing a mistake. The old plan jumped from Artemis 2, a crewed test flight that swings past the Moon, directly to a moon landing using a completely separate and largely untested landing vehicle. No intermediate step, no dress rehearsal. Just a leap from a flyby to a landing on one of the most unforgiving surfaces in the solar system. That was never going to work. Everyone inside the program knew it. The launch date was a number that got moved forward every year without anything actually moving forward. The new plan fixes this at Artemis 3. Instead of a moon landing, Artemis 3 will be a rendezvous. The Orion capsule and the lunar lander will meet in low Earth orbit. The crew will dock with the lander, transfer inside, and run full system tests. Life support, propulsion, communications. The new lunar EVA suits tested inside the airlock for the first time. All of it done close to home, where if something fails, you can fix it or abort without losing anyone. And there are now 2 landers in competition for that test. SpaceX Starship in its lunar configuration, and Blue Origin's Blue Moon vehicle. Isaacman was direct about what that means. Winning a contract in 2022 does not guarantee anything. The only thing that matters is execution. Whoever is ready first gets to go. Artemis 3 launches in 2027. Phase 1, 2026 to 2028. The first phase is about one thing: access. 25 missions in 3 years, 21 lunar landings, 2 with crew. The rest are about solving problems that have to be solved before anyone lives up there. And the first problem is darkness. The Moon's day and night cycle is nothing like Earth's. 2 weeks of continuous sunlight. Then 2 weeks of total darkness with temperatures dropping below -200 degrees Celsius. Every piece of hardware that goes dark in those 2 weeks tends not to come back online when the sun returns. Electronics freeze. Batteries fail. Things that worked perfectly in testing stop working permanently. NASA's answer is nuclear, specifically radioisotope thermal generators, a radioactive element, typically plutonium, that releases heat continuously as it decays. Not enough to power a city. Enough to keep critical hardware alive through 2 weeks of freezing dark. Phase 1 also deploys something that sounds like it belongs in a different kind of video. Rocket drones. NASA calls the program Moonraker. Each vehicle uses small rocket thrusters instead of propellers, can fly for 150 seconds per hop, and cover up to 50 kilometers in a single jump. They are designed to reach places no rover can get to. Mountain peaks, crater edges, permanently shadowed regions at the poles where the ice is. And the Viper rover, which has been built and tested and sitting in a warehouse waiting for a launch vehicle for years, finally gets its ride in 2027 on a Blue Origin lander. Its job is lunar prospecting, mapping confirmed deposits of water ice, hydrogen, oxygen, and rare earth metals across the South Pole region. Not for science, for construction. What Viper finds in Phase 1 determines where everything in Phase 3 gets built. Phase 2, 2029 to 2032, 27 launches, 24 landings, the first permanent infrastructure. This phase is about foundation, not the inspiring part, the part that makes the inspiring part possible. Excavation rovers that can move rock, level ground, and dig trenches for power cables. 6 new surface vehicles, each with a specific job. The first pressurized mobile habitat, developed in partnership with Toyota. A 15,000-kilogram vehicle that is essentially an apartment on wheels. Astronauts inside can work in short-sleeved shirts. It travels at 3.5 kilometers per hour and can operate for up to 150 hours in complete darkness, designed for a 10-year service life. Power in Phase 2 comes from 2 sources: solar panels mounted on elevated poles connected to large battery banks for energy storage during darkness, and nuclear fission reactors generating hundreds of watts of electricity, running continuously, supplying multiple assets simultaneously. By the end of 2032, the Moon has power. It has communication infrastructure. It has roads, or at least leveled ground where roads will be. It has rovers that know the terrain. It is ready for people to move in. Phase 3, 2033, and beyond for people. 28 days. Rotating crews arriving every 6 months. This is what permanent habitation looks like in its first form. Multiple connected habitat modules, essentially a space station built on solid ground, powered by a dedicated nuclear fission generator, supplied with approximately 8,000 kilograms of food, water, and breathable air per month. And for the first time, the Moon starts providing for itself. Water extracted from ice deposits in permanently shadowed craters at the South Pole. That water split into oxygen to breathe and hydrogen to use as rocket propellant. Lunar soil processed into a pourable material that can be 3D printed into structural components. The first buildings on the Moon not brought from Earth, but built from what the Moon already has. NASA calls this in situ resource utilization. The rest of us would call it not needing a supply chain 240,000 miles long to survive. This is the part that changes everything about deep space exploration. Because the Moon is not the destination. The Moon is the practice run. Every system that works on the Moon, the nuclear power, the resource extraction, the long-duration habitation, gets scaled up for Mars. Every crew rotation that lands at the South Pole base is a crew that learned something the next mission will use. The moon is where we learn how to live somewhere else. What this actually requires, NASA has admitted publicly that what they are attempting is very nearly impossible, not the engineering. The engineering is solvable with time and money. What is nearly impossible is doing it fast enough to matter. Because China is not waiting. They have announced their own crewed lunar landing target of 2030. Their stated goal is a permanent research station at the South Pole by 2035. The same location, the same ice deposits, the same permanently shadowed craters with water that becomes oxygen that becomes fuel. There is only so much of the moon's South Pole to go around, and whoever establishes continuous presence there first will have operational, logistical, and arguably legal advantages that the second arrival will spend years trying to overcome. This is not about science. This is about who is there when the decisions get made about how the moon gets used. Isaac Mann said it plainly. Good enough is no longer good enough. $20 billion. 7 years. 3 phases. A rotating crew living on the moon by 2033. It is an almost impossible timeline. But so is putting a man on the moon in a decade, announced by a president who didn't live to see it happen. And that worked too.